we're here. We made it. Okay. January 2025, where the vibes were absolutely in shambles, but at least the books were good. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I like to talk about books, and today we are finally doing my January 2025 wrapped because January 2025 is finally over. My God, did that take years? It took years off my life, that's for sure. January 2025, where the world was literally in shambles, but at least the books were good, because they were. I read books this month and they were good, which is the least January could have done for me. So let's talk about it. As far as stats go for January, I read 7 books this month and they had a star rating of just over 4 stars, which is absolutely phenomenal for me because usually I have 1 or 2 books that just absolutely tank the average, and that didn't happen this month. I also read primarily audiobooks this month, which was just so nice because literally the entire year last year I struggled to even finish an audiobook. And I also read 1 nonfiction book this month, which means my goal to read at least 1 every month this year is currently on track. Now let's get into the details for these books. My very first read of 2025 is maybe one of my favorite books. I don't know if it'll make the top favorite books ever list, but at least as far as books I've read recently, this is definitely at the top of the list, and that is The Favorites by Layne Fargo. Now, this book was already on my radar because it is a Wuthering Heights retelling. Say less. Wuthering Heights is one of my favorite books of all time. It's dark and broody and dramatic, and I love it so much. Emily Bronte, what a visionary, just a full cast of completely unlikable characters that I am addicted to. The Favorites takes these characters, specifically Catherine and Heathcliff, and puts them in the modern era and makes them childhood sweethearts that are also an Olympic-bound ice dancing duo. The story is told from 2 main perspectives, the first and main one being from Catherine herself, but then we also get all of this content from a documentary that is being created about Catherine and Heathcliff. Heath? He might just be Heath in this book. With the whole documentary aspect, this is a very similar format as Daisy Jones and the Six. If you liked that documentary style storytelling, you're going to love The Favorites. And that also means that the audiobook for this one is a must. It has a full cast that includes some real life figure skating legends. It's phenomenal. I did not want to put this audiobook down to the point where I was literally keeping myself awake at night listening to it and not wanting to go to bed. Now, I do want to put this disclaimer out there, though I do fear it is obvious. Do not go into this book looking for likable characters that has a nice and tidy happily ever after. That's not Wuthering Heights, and it's not The Favorites. This book stays very true to the main plot points in Wuthering Heights, as well as the characters themselves, with some big key differences, but for the majority of the story, that's what you're getting. Though I will say that the characters in The Favorites are more likable than Wuthering Heights, but I do think that that's because we're primarily getting the perspective of Catherine. If you love Wuthering Heights, give this book a try. If you love Daisy Jones and the Six, give this book a try. If you love drama, if you love Johnny Weir, if you love ice dancing, if you love the Olympics, just give it a shot. This was so wildly entertaining. Also, I could totally see this getting picked up for an adaptation. So if you want to be in on it early, read it now. Read it now and get the audiobook. And then if you do read it, tell me about it because I would love to talk about this book more. And then I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borrison. This is the first book by B.K. Borrison that I've ever read. And I am so sorry to B.K. Borrison because I didn't know what I was missing. And now I'm about to dig through that backlog because this was phenomenal. If you want a romance that's gonna knock your socks off because it's slow burn and yearning and they're friends first and they're just so incredibly genuine, literally call me I'm barefoot because this knocked my socks off. I'm not saying that. That's so stupid. Okay, anyways, so the premise is that Aiden is this talk show host and he specifically hosts a show giving advice about love. And Lucy's daughter calls in asking for advice on getting her mother to fall in love because she's worried that her mother is lonely. And this whole conversation goes completely viral to the point where the radio show brings Lucy in for her own segment because all of Baltimore wants to see Lucy find love. And it is Aiden's job to make sure that that happens. But of course, they fell in love. This was so incredibly genuine. I did not want to put it down. And again, I did the audiobook for this one, and it just really highlighted the like talk show radio aspect that this book has. It really highlighted that. And so I definitely would recommend, again, the audiobook for this one. It was great. After that, I read Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. And listen, Out on a Limb is one of my favorite romances of all time. Like, definitely not like the top, but it's like definitely making, I would say, like top 8 for sure. So I definitely wanted to read more Hannah Bonham Young, and I still do. But I was a little bit hesitant to get into Out of the Woods because I wasn't super sold on Sarah as a character in Out on a Limb, which is ironic because, like, on paper, we are very similar. My name is Sarah. Her name is Sarah. She married her high school sweetheart. I married my high school sweetheart. Her high school sweetheart's name is Caleb. My husband's name is very similar to that. To the point where as I was reading like the first few chapters, I was like, is this me? It's not. It's not. We're very different. This whole premise is that Sarah and Caleb are a marriage in crisis. And so in order to rectify that and give their marriage the shot that it deserves, they decide to take this like outdoor retreat together, even though neither of them like being in the elements at all. They decide that's their best shot to do this like retreat that's led by like these marriage counselors, I guess. Concept was funny. Hannah Bonham Young's writing still great. I just am not super sold on Sarah in general. I didn't like love this one. It was still a good time, but I think it was going to be hard no matter what book I picked up after the first two. It's going to be hard to like live up to that standard, and this just so clearly wasn't at that standard that the difference was a little jarring. But it was fun, and there were some moments that were like really good, but just like the characters weren't as like lovable as Out on a Limb, which, I mean, how could you be? How could you be? You know? The next book I read was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. And let's be real, if you're going to read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, it is probably because you've read another Ali Hazelwood before. And you were going to pick this one up regardless of what it was going to be about. But this one is specifically quintessential Ali Hazelwood, but with a swimmer and a diver who are also like Olympic hopefuls. These authors are just really wanting me to get back into the Olympics, I guess. But this one is like more similar to, I guess, like Not in Love Ali Hazelwood than, say, any of the other Ali Hazelwoods, but this one's like kinkier. So have fun with that. I did the audiobook for this one. It was good. That one comes out February 4th. So if this video comes out before that, good for me. But you'll be able to enjoy it after February 4th. After that, I picked up Flirting Lessons by Jasmine Guillory. This, again, is my first Jasmine Guillory that I ever read. I would read more. I do fear that this book was sabotaged by just the absolute disaster that was January, because I was reading this book at like peak disaster of January, if you know what I mean. And I just don't think anything this like light and fluffy and rom-commy was going to give what I needed in that moment. I needed something a little grittier, a little angrier. This was not that. So I do think that like my mood soured my experience with this book. So maybe I'll like give it another. I probably won't do a reread of this one, but I'll definitely read more Jasmine Guillory in the future, because really this had everything that I would typically like. You know, it's sapphic. We have Avery, who is coming out of like a terrible relationship, and she's like finally ready to take the chance and like start dating women. Like, she's always known that she was attracted to both, but like had never had the opportunity to date women because she was always in like long-term relationships with men. And she's like, I want to put myself out there, but I have no idea what to do, and I have no idea where to go from here. Enter Taylor, who is just like the perfect person to teach her how to flirt with women. And then, you know, of course, they fall in love. everything that I should love, you know? I did, like, it was good. I just know I could have enjoyed it more if everything outside of the book had cooperated, you know? So while I was reading Flirting Lessons, I kind of realized that this mood shift was happening. So I also picked up One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar Akkad, and this was exactly what I needed in that moment. This was my one nonfiction read for the month. It really couldn't have come at a better time because I felt like I was in a moment where I was looking around and everything that I was seeing, it was like no one else wanted to comment. Everyone was being so quiet about it, and I'm just like, is no one gonna say what we're all seeing here? And like, there obviously were people that I am connected to who were saying it, but so many who weren't. And I'm just like, can we just say explicitly what we're seeing? The idea of listening to someone who sees what we've all been seeing on our screens and researches it and then does a deep dive into it and explores it further and states it explicitly, that piece of it was almost like cathartic. This book specifically covers everything that's happening in Gaza, specifically through like the last year and how it's impacted the last year of the United States and vice versa, as well as other significant moments in history. This one comes out at the end of February, and I can't recommend it more. So then I also read Make Room for Love by Darcy Lau, and I loved everything about this in concept, but I didn't necessarily love the execution. Mira finds herself without a place to stay after she leaves an abusive relationship. Isabel does have an extra room and is actively grieving the loss of her sister. They both feel this like connection to each other, but they're trying to actively avoid it because they're like, listen, we're roommates. That would be really messy. But they are both drawn together because Isabel is helping Mira, who's trying to start a union at her work, and Isabel has extensive experience with unions. There is a lot there that I really love. It's just that a lot of times the writing felt really distant to the story. Like, it felt like we were like hovering above and like just seeing at a distance what's happening, but not really like being with the characters in what they're experiencing. It was almost as if at times there was like too much happening, and so we were just getting like a quick description and then moving on. So like, I really just wanted more. That being said, this also was likely sabotaged by the train wreck that was January. So I still definitely recommend giving it a try, and I will be reading more from this author. This one is sapphic, it has trans rep, it is pro-union, like there's a lot to love here. But yeah, that's it. That's everything that I read in January. January, you're no good, very bad month, and I hope you feel bad for what you put us all through. You guys, let's buckle up for the next few forevers. I'll see you guys next time. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Mwah.